Ravanam Chadi Jamati Ravanam Chadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Bhajanarandana Jasodanandana Bhajanarandana Jamanati Ravana Chadi Jamanati Ravana Chadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajagacharya Astatarasatasi Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktisiddhanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Paramahamsa Parivajagacharya Astatarasatasi Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Gaura Premanandi. Since you're all over here, I'm going to move the camera wherever you want to. We're observing the Disappearance Day of... You got your back to the screen. Disappearance Day of Bhaktisiddhanta, Sarasvati Goswami Maharaj. During the winter retreat, maybe you recall seeing a little video. I meant to put it in this presentation. It's Prabhupada speaking on the occasion of Bhaktisiddhanta's disappearance in Seattle, expressing his profound gratitude to Bhaktisiddhanta. So as you see, he is dressed as a sannyasi, Tridanda sannyasi, meaning Vaishnava. And we'll say a few things about his life and then read some of the things that he spoke about just before his departure as some of his parting instructions. His whole life, he was a brahmachari. He had perfect memory, didactic memory. When he was 4 years old, he not only he could recite the entire Bhagavad Gita from memory, but if asked, he could for 10 minutes explain any one of the Bhagavad Gita verses. Very astounding. When he was in high school, he established with some of his friends a plan where they would take vows of remaining brahmachari for the rest of their life. And he fulfilled that purpose. It's said when he was a little boy, forget the age, but he was very young, very, very young, few years old. His father, Bhaktivinoda, was offering mangoes to the deity. And before a mango had been offered, he ate it, little boy. And his father, when he found out, Bhaktivinoda, said, "Oh, this is not good. You've eaten mango before the deity has accepted the offering." And Bhaktisiddhanta then said, "I'm an offender. I've offended the Lord, and for the rest of my life, I will not take mango." So, in mango season in Bengal mangoes are abundant and they're really wonderful fruit, not just like what you buy in the store, because they're not the same as when they're fresh from the tree. But whenever offered mango, he would decline, saying, "I'm an offender." So he kept that commitment to Krishna for his whole life. When he was still in his early stages of college, he had become the most renowned astrologer in all of India, and that's really saying something. He wrote a treatise on Siddhanta Shiromani. Siddhanta Shiromani is a text that's basically mathematical. It's making mathematical calculations of astronomical events. He wrote a whole explanation, commentary on it. And from that, that's where he got the title Siddhanta. It was a title given because of his scholarship, but later he gave it up, saying it's worldly, and I'm interested in transcendence. So he desisted from that. Before he completed college, he understood, as is common in the culture of the time, when a young man, upon completion of college, it is expected at that stage he would get married. But he was very determined to not become married. So what he did was he didn't complete his college education. Instead, he became a librarian of the king of Midnapur. And while he was the librarian of the king, he read all the books in the library. And he had such a memory that when he read a book, he would remember exactly what he read. The page number, word for word, what he read, and later when he was speaking, he would speak something from Chaucer or from Milton because the king and the people at that time were very interested in European literature, because the British had successfully persuaded people to believe that everything Indian is backwards and everything Western is forwards, or, to be honored. So he had those books in his library, he read. And Bhaktisiddhanta would, just speaking, think about it, you're something that you read so many years ago, and word for word you can repeat what you read in a book. word for word what you read a year ago or several years ago. It's not ordinary. His capacities from childhood. And when he departed, here's an image that appeared in the paper. It was in Calcutta. This is that appeared in the paper along with the story of his departure. So we're honoring his departure day today. My first contact with Bhaktisiddhanta was when I was in college. In fact, this is a little personal story. The very first literature, Krishna conscious literature I received was the Back to Godhead magazine. At the university that I was attending, there was a center, and a person who was a close friend of mine, I didn't know what Hare Krishna movement was, but he gave me a Back to Godhead magazine, just like a gift here. So I was carrying it around along with my clipboard and, stack of books, and it was in there somewhere. And some other people that I knew saw it, the Back to Godhead magazine. They went, "Oh no, you're into that?" And I said, "What's that?" I said, "Well, you don't want to be into that." So I got curious. I read the magazine. Their being against it was impetus for me to find out about it. And the feature article was a portion of an article written by Bhaktisiddhanta called The Vedanta, Its Morphology and Ontology. It was published in 1969, Back to Godhead magazine. And that's not what the BTG looked like, but that was the name of the article. And I had to look up the meaning of the title. And those of you that have maybe read some of Bhaktisiddhanta's writings, you have to keep a dictionary by your side, because every 5th word or 10th word, you got to look up in the dictionary. Now, I was a pre-med student, and I wasn't intimidated by language that I was unfamiliar with. And so I read through it. I did it like you do in college. You underline things and circle words and write notes in the margin and things like that. Right in the Back to Godhead magazine. And from the time I started till the time I finished the article, it was 3 hours. I remember. And I was so absorbed. 2 things. I was so absorbed, I didn't even notice the passing of time. There was a little discussion in this question-answer session during recent class, morning class, evening class in Chicago. And, what's it like to be involved in timeless events? Here there's time. And in the spiritual world, time is absent, so what's it like? I didn't use this example, but I'm using it with you. When you're absorbed in something that you really like, and you don't even notice the passage of time. Time seems to be timeless. So not only was one of those timeless events, but my experience was my consciousness was way up here. And it's not that I understood everything. I wasn't disturbed because I didn't understand everything, because I'm used to reading text that I have to read a few times for pre-med to understand what it's saying. But it's not consciousness transforming like this was. So that was my first introduction to Bhaktisiddhanta. And ever since then, starting then and ever since then, very, very high regard for Bhaktisiddhanta. That's my appreciation for him. Notice this is the original publication of this work. In the middle is Bhaktisiddhanta's logo. So here's the logo. for Gaudiya Mat. And notice in the lower right corner, that's, like say about 4:30, 5 o'clock down there on the face of a clock. There's a Mridanga and a printing press. That's his logo. Because part of, I don't know what it says. Can anybody read what it says? What? Kirta. Okay. So, Mridanga and Brihat Mridanga. A major part of his mission, that Gaudiya mission, Gaudiya Mat, was the temple, was preaching, and kirtan with the mridanga, and the brihat mridanga is the printing press. So there you see in the upper left and upper right, books. Books are the basis. Worship on the left and on the right. It looks on the lower left, it looks like a ghee lamp and some incense, something like that. Making offerings. Oh, bell and some incense. Making offerings to the Lord. So that's his own design. And here's a little story I heard from Jananivas in Sridham Mayapur. That's where the Radha Madhava, the Ashtasakis and Panchatattva and Prahlad Nrsinga deities are. You familiar? Have you seen pictures? Yes? He's the head pujari. He's been there since it was just a grass hut when Prabhupada first stayed there. And he's still wonderful brahmachari. And three times I've heard him tell the same story. Down the road, the Bhaktisiddhanta road it's called, is the headquarters where Bhaktisiddhanta stayed, called Chaitanya Mat. And it's big walled in area, and the main deity is Gandharvika Giridhari. He personally selected the deity in Jaipur when he went through the Murti maker section of Jaipur. He saw the deities. He was very attracted to the deities. He requested that the deities be purchased. He personally installed them. He gave them their name. He had built the temple. So, Gandharvika Giridhari. Gandharvika is the name of Radharani. And he was very fond, Giridhari, he's very fond of Govardhan Hill. When he was residing in Jagannath Puri, he made a residence, like a place where he would go and write, and like a little retreat, not exactly a temple. It's an ashram where he would stay. And it's right across the street from Chatak Parvat. Chatak Parvat. Parvat means hill. And Chatak Parvat is the place where, when Lord Chaitanya was going by Chatak Parvat, he saw Govardhan Hill. And he saw Krishna on the side of Govardhan Hill. And he went running with his arms stretched to embrace Krishna. He ran like the wind, and the devotees couldn't keep up with him. He was running so fast. And he swooned in a faint and fell to the ground at Chatak Parvat. It's in that place. It's kind of remote, in the jungle type area. That's where Bhaktisiddhanta kept his residence, and because he was very fond of Govardhan Hill. And he would regularly recite the prayers to Govardhan, composed by Rupa Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He loved Govardhan. That's a whole other topic. So, where he, When he was in that place in South India, in Puri, that's where Bhaktisiddhanta wrote one of his last letters, at least the last one that Prabhupada got, was the repeat of the instruction to Prabhupada. Prabhupada wrote, you're familiar with this, Prabhupada wrote a letter saying, I'm a grahasta, you have so many sannyasi disciples, and there's not much, I can't do all the service because I have to maintain my family, so please give me some instruction that I can fulfill in service of you. And the instruction he gave him was the same instruction he gave when they first met. Go to the Western countries and take the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and deliver it for the benefit of them and yourself. Very celebrated instruction that Prabhupada fulfilled, but it carried him. It carried him across the ocean, that instruction. Bhaktisiddhanta wrote many books. He was called Singha Guru, or like a lion. That is, his style, his personality style was, whenever he saw discrepancies, he would confront it. He wasn't just mild and gently. His father, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, was known for humble persuasion, and Bhaktisiddhanta was known for challenging. Whenever there's deviation, he was intolerant of deviation, and he would challenge it. Here you see an image that I have blown up and put on my wall in my office, the office in New York. It's not only it's a car, but it's a convertible. And Bhaktisiddhanta, I'm going to read something, but Bhaktisiddhanta brought this to Vrindavan. Now, in Vedic culture, a sannyasi is supposed to walk barefoot and not ride in some conveyance, because commonly conveyances meant a palanquin, like a king or some dignitary or VIP or something, and people, special people would be carried by palanquin. So sannyasis were not supposed to do that. They would walk, and they would walk barefoot. So he not only didn't walk, but he got a car. Not he got a car, he got a convertible. And sannyasis are not supposed to wear, this is rigid tradition. Smartas say sannyasis are supposed to wear only one cloth, that is, not sewn cloth. So not only he would, at times, like you saw that initial photo, it's just that sannyas robe. But in this case, it wasn't only a robe, it was a coat. A nice fancy coat with a chauffeur, with a person next to him wearing a fancy hat, and he would ride through the streets of Vrindavan waving at people. And why was he doing that? I mean, he knew what it would bring criticism, but he was making a statement. And the statement was the statement of Rupa Goswami's teaching of what is real renunciation. You familiar with the teaching? It's from Rupa Goswami's teachings, and we're followers of Rupa Goswami. And it's so what false renunciation is and what complete renunciation is. So complete renunciation is when things are seen in relation to Hari, and they're engaged in service to Hari without attachment. That's yukta vairagya. That's complete detachment. It's nice Sanskrit. Anasaktasya vishayan yatarham upayunjitaha nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagya. Yukta means engaged, and vairagya means detachment. So, real detachment means to engage things in Krishna's service, not just to throw them away or stay away from them. So, that which is to be used in Krishna's service, you accept. Like Prabhupada would speak so often about, here's a microphone. And the microphone is a material thing, yet we're using it in Krishna's service, so it has its place in Krishna's service. Just like the camera and live stream broadcasting a class sitting in someone's living room. Well, there's many people watching at the same time, so it's yukta vairagya. The printing press is yukta vairagya. It was a cornerstone. On the one side, there's the mridanga. That's traditional. And then the printing press is brihat mridanga. Brihat means big or large. Prabhupada would teach like this from Bhaktisiddhanta. Mridanga may be heard played loudly for a block or two. And the brihat mridanga can be heard all around the world. It's very powerful. And by engaging it helped Srila Prabhupada expand the message of Krishna far and wide in many, many languages and printed all around the world. I'm going to read something he speaks about this automobile. Yeah. Bhaktisiddhanta had a limousine back in the 1930s, and he dressed nicely. He would always wear a dhoti, but on occasion, as required, he would also don a double-breasted coat, stockings, and shoes. For receiving special guests, he had fine furniture. Thus, referring to the elite, he said, "We are preaching by approaching the people of the world, dressed even somewhat better than they, showing knowledge even somewhat greater than theirs, being even somewhere more stylish than they, without which they would think us worthless and not listen to our Harikatha. I have to go to various places for propagating Harikatha, so I must present myself as a learned and decent gentleman, otherwise non-devotees will not give me their time." And he used all means for broadcasting the message of Krishna. A little story. The first time that I visited Vrindavan was 1974. And it was at a time when Vrindavan was not developed like it is today. It was quite simple. And it was the year after Srila Prabhupada had taken a group of Western devotees to Vrindavan. So this was the first Mayapur Vrindavan festival, it was called. And we went to Mayapur and attended Gaur Purnima. And then after Gaur Purnima, we came to Vrindavan. And we were taken around to places by Guru Das, because he was there for the first visit 1 year earlier. It was actually Kartik the year before. And so we came in around Gaur Purnima time. And one of the places we went to was a Ranganath temple. It wasn't an ISKCON temple. It wasn't even a Gaudiya temple, but it was a Krishna temple. Ranganath. They worshipped Lord Ranganath, but they worshipped him in the mood that he's the origin of Krishna, like that. So it wasn't a Gaudiya temple. But Bhaktisiddhanta, we were taken there because Bhaktisiddhanta had a diorama, a display, that was really simple. But, in the 1930s, you used what was available in the 1930s. So it was a kind of like a topographical depiction of Vrindavan. It was like that table that the screen is set up on. It was maybe 6 of those. It was really big, spread out, rectangular shape, and it was a topographical depiction of Vrindavan. Like over here was Nandagram, up high, and over there was Govardhan Hill, and weaving over this way was the river Jamuna, and so forth. There was trees and cows, and And there were some moving parts. The moving parts were Krishna, Balaram, and the cows and cowherd boys that were moved because there was a system of chains that you would crank the whole system, and the cowherd boys left Nandagram, and you could hear the chains rattling underneath this terrain, and they would go to the river Jamuna, and then they would go to Govardhan. Then he had to crank it back, and they went back. So he was using technology of the time to depict Krishna's pastimes, so people could visually envision. Interesting, huh? And Srila Prabhupada also, following in the footsteps of Bhaktisiddhanta, decided what he wanted. One of the things he wanted was dioramas. Now that's a term that's used in ISKCON a lot. Diorama, he was also then called dolls, because in Calcutta or in West Bengal, there's an art of doll making. During the time of Durga Puja, they have lots of craftsmen that make image of Durga, then they cast it, and then they make moldings from the cast, and they use straw, and then they sell their murtis for Durga Puja. And at the end of the Durga Puja, the deity is finished. It's just for Durga Puja. So it's very fine art. So Prabhupada sent several devotees to go learn the art of doll making to Mayapur. They came back, and by their artistic ability, they made dioramas of Krishna's pastimes and teachings of the Bhagavad Gita philosophy. I want to stay focused. If you go to Los Angeles sometime, for whatever the reason, please make an effort to go see the diorama exhibit at the LA Temple, because it was using not only dioramas but technology of lights and sound and moving things, and using technology to teach people about Krishna Bhakti and about Krishna and Bhagavad Gita's message and transmigration of the soul and all those things in really, really cool ways. And it kind of didn't get utilized for a long while because the computer technology was really old from the time that it was built. But a devotee got involved in it and upgraded it to modern technology, and now it's one of the 10 attractions listed by the Chamber of Commerce in Los Angeles to go see. Is the Fate Museum is called First American Theistic Exhibition, FATE, the Fate Museum. That's what it was called. It's really good, but it's just following in the footsteps of Bhaktisiddhanta. We saw the year that he departed, and one of the celebrated events not so long prior to his departure was a visit to Dhaka in January, and he made a claim that one can speak in every single verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. There's volumes and volumes of meaning. So what he did, for 1 month, he spoke on one verse, 111 Bhagavatam, for 1 month, and didn't repeat anything. He's a cornucopia of wisdom and beautiful teachings. Here's extracts from those lectures, because after the lectures there was something published. Listen to this one. It is because I am myself honeycombed with 1,000 defects that I am attracted to the task of seeking out the defects in other persons. Here's another little, the first experience that I had with Bhaktisiddhanta I mentioned, that Back to Godhead magazine. So So I already had this, hero picture or image of Bhaktisiddhanta. And then fast forward in time, I moved into the Boston Temple. That was the first place. It was after the undergraduate years were completed, so the summer of 1970. That's when I first lived in a temple a few years ago. And after being there just a month or so, Guru Das visited. And he had with him a stack of books, and I like books. I asked him, can I look at your books? He said, sure. And right on the top was a book by Bhaktisiddhanta. So I was going, wow, book by Bhaktisiddhanta. So I opened up the book, and just inside the cover page was this little dedication page, and it said something very similar to this, and it went inside. So it wasn't the text itself, it was the preface to the text, or a little introduction. And it was 2 paragraphs, short. A Vaishnava is never one who finds fault in others, for by so doing one is disclosing the fact that one's own heart is honeycombed with the same fault, same type of language. Then the other paragraph was, rather, a Vaishnava is one who looks within and sees where are these defects within me and makes their heart clean, so that then they can be a true representative of Krishna. And really powerful. I mean, for you, it's a great principle to live your life by. I just got a letter from 2 letters, recent. One from a college student that's on a pre-med track, straight A student. But she was sharing with me, and then another person, some other place, in his workplace, he was sharing with me. He's, married and has child, so different ages, different social backgrounds. But when they see defects in others, they become very disturbed. And they focus on that defect in others and become very disturbed. And it's hard to function because their attention keeps going to that defect in others, especially when they're expecting that other person to not have defects, but who doesn't have defects? So and they know that, but yet their attention stays. So this teaching protects you from that. I'll read it again. It is because I am myself honeycombed with 1,000 defects that I'm attracted to the task of seeking out the defects in other persons. Then, those favored by God find their paths set by thorns. Next, let me not desire anything but the highest good for my worst enemies. Another, there is no peace or happiness in our worldly life. Circumstances create turmoil and annoyance. Next, be indifferent to bizarre gossips. Stick firmly to your cherished goals. No lack or impediments of the world will ever stand in your way. Next, a devotee feels the presence of God everywhere, but one averse to the Lord denies his existence anywhere. Next, chant the Maha Mantra loudly and with attachment. This will drive away inertia, worldly evils, and pests. And he was, perhaps his own life was, had its difficulties. We read something this morning at the temple, Chicago temple, the final days. It's from the Ray of Vishnu, the biography about Bhaktisiddhanta. And he acknowledged that, this confrontational style of his made enemies. Some people appreciated, wow, he's a truth speaker. And some people were insulted. And there were circumstances where even his life was at risk. I want to read that little story. Yeah, here. Bhaktisiddhanta was the enemy of falsehood. And people who were thriving on falsehood sometimes became his enemy. There were many incidents. Once, when he and his party were performing Navadvip Parikrama, the caste Brahmanas hired gundas. You know what's a gunda? Hello? You know what a gunda is? A thug. You know what a thug is? A bad guy that goes and hits people. A hitman. You know what that means? Yeah, okay. So the caste Brahmanas hired some thugs, some hitmen, some gundas, or thugs, who let loose with a volley of stones and boulders on Lord Chaitanya's, on Bhaktisiddhanta Sankirtan party. They were really aiming to take Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura's life. But one of his disciples cleverly exchanged his white dress for Sarasvati Thakura's saffron, so Sarasvati Thakur emerged disguised and escaped. But it was a terrible scene. It looked like a massacre, with the streets of Navadvip stained with the blood of the Vaishnavas. Some devotees suffered severe gashes and fractures, but by Krishna's grace, none was killed. It was a dark moment, but when it came to light that the attack had been perpetrated by caste Goswamis, the shocked public sided with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and the Gaudiya Math. And the caste Goswami's opposition to him lost whatever apparent credibility it had. As news of the event spread, those in learned circles protested in newspapers and magazines. The chief police inspector of Navadvip was sacked, fired. And the parikrama continued under full police protection. Later, when urged to press charges against the culprits, Srila Saraswati Thakur declined, saying that the hooligans, same thing, hot thugs, the hooligans had done a yeoman service, like a very, very wonderful service. Otherwise, how could the Gaudiya Math have been featured on the front pages of all the newspapers? Srila Saraswati Thakur was the enemy of falsehood, but he was the well-wisher of everyone, even of the people who were inimical to him. And the little footnote is, the person who changed clothes, that was at that time Grahastha, later became himself a sannyasi, and he was the sannyas guru of our Srila Prabhupada, Keshava Maharaj. Keshava Maharaj, who became his sannyas guru, is the one who protected Bhaktisiddhanta. There was another story that's not written here, but I heard it many times. There was a murder plot, and the murderers had approached the police and offered the police a bribe. I don't know exactly how it works, but somehow you bribe a police officer when some bad thing is done, they don't do anything about it. So the officer refused to accept a bribe. Now, I guess, to people in the West, that's quite normal, but for people in India, it's not quite normal. It's just how civil servants make their livelihood. They get a low salary, but they accept bribes. It's just common in India. I mean, I've learned. So the police officer rejected the bribe because Bhaktisiddhanta is a sadhu and he wouldn't be implicated in that. And he informed Bhaktisiddhanta, there's Brahmins who want to kill you, so be very careful. And he wasn't surprised because it can be very dangerous at times, especially the manner in which he would confront falsehoods explicitly. Now, there's a wonderful book, maybe some of you have seen it. It's a 3-volume book on Bhaktisiddhanta's life, and this is an extract from there. Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati revealed that Harikatha is the Swarup Shakti of Harinam. That is, just as Krishna is properly worshipped not alone but with his Swarup Shakti Sri Radha, recitation of Harinam is incomplete and improper unless accompanied by hearing Harikatha. Nice, huh? Radha Krishna, Harikatha, Harinam. So Harikatha is the Sri Radha portion of Radha Krishna, and the name is the Krishna portion, Hare Krishna Mahamantra. That is to say that in this section, Bhaktisiddhanta would often speak of the importance of Sankirtan, obviously because he was a proponent of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan mission, but he wasn't renowned for Kirtan. He wasn't a Kirtanir, but he was renowned for his Harikatha, and he explained this particular reference from his biography. This is, he wrote an entire Chaitanya Bhagavat commentary, every verse. That's also for Chaitanya Charitamrita, but this is one of the verses. The characteristics of Prahlad are described in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and the characteristics of Dhruva are described in the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Sri Gadadhar Pandit Goswami, pictured on the left over there, reciting from Srimad Bhagavatam, was the speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam, and Sri Gaurasundara was the listener. Now by his side is Lord Nityananda in the blue dhoti. He, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, attentively heard topics of Prahlad and Dhruva's cultivation of devotional service from the mouth of Gadadhar hundreds of times. Every day, Lord Chaitanya would go to the temple of Gopinath, where Gadadhar Pandit was worshipping Gopinath, and then after seeing the deity of Gopinath and dancing, he would sit with Gadadhar and hear topics of Srimad Bhagavatam from him. Now there's so many things to say. I'll say a few more things, but this is the last slide. God is the shelter of all. He sends many obstacles and inconveniences to those who wish for shelter under him in order to test their ardor and steadiness. Chaitanya Shikshamrita is one of his books. So the teachings or instructions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so he wasn't intimidated by difficulty. And anyone that wants to be successful in anything, certainly in spiritual life, but for that matter anything, like he said, the path of the sadhu is filled with thorns. When you're trying to move forward towards life's ultimate goal, it's not free from bumps. There's difficulties. And it's not unfair tribulation kind of difficulties, it's purification kind. Or as he's saying here, Krishna is testing to see, are we very sincere and are we very determined? here's there's so many nice things to say about Bhaktisiddhanta, but I think I'll just make the connection with what Prabhupada said. I recall sitting in a temple room in New York, and Prabhupada was explaining the same principle, where Prabhupada said, if you say to Krishna, my dear Lord Krishna, so many lifetimes I've wasted in fruitive activities and trying to become an enjoyer independent from you. Let me dedicate this one lifetime to you. So Krishna may consider, oh, do they really want me? Supposing I give them some sense gratification. Prabhupada made that sound. And the devotee says, no. He held his arm. No, I only want Krishna. Oh, this devotee is very sincere. What if they have some tribulation? Will they still want me? So Krishna sends some tribulation, as it's saying here, to test their ardor and steadiness. And Prabhupada said, whatever Krishna sends my way, that's okay, I simply want him. And then Krishna will say, oh, he's really sincere. He really wants me. Let me give myself to him. Now, it's not a game or some kind of playfulness of Krishna, but the fact of the matter is we've been involved in the material energy for who knows how long, lifetimes and lifetimes, how many, who can say? And it's not easy to extract oneself from worldliness and move towards transcendence. So Bhaktisiddhanta, like any loving personality, wanted to help those who he contacted become free from that worldliness by loving attraction for Krishna. So he was very, very strong in preaching Lord Chaitanya's message. I think I just read one more. One of the final instructions of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur. Please preach the kirtan of the Supreme Lord, even if in doing so you have to incur debt. Then in order to pay off that debt, you will have to be even more engaged in seva. When your creditors put pressure on you, you will be forced to beg more alms. Again, this is his temples. Again, as the pious householders will not give you alms unless your character and conduct are pure, you will be forced to preserve a pure lifestyle with great determination and care. I will not leave one penny for you, so that in the future you won't indulge in laziness and you won't be able to give up your devotional lives, full of Hari Kirtan and Hari Seva. These temples are centers of Hari Kirtan, and Hari Kirtan is life and consciousness. To ensure that there is no place for laziness, bad conduct, trivial thought, gossip, or vulgar desires in the mat, you have to go from door to door where your Hari Kirtan will be tested by the public. When the public will think that they are givers of alms and you are the receiver of alms, in other words, that their status is higher than yours, they will criticize you in many ways, thinking that you are objects of their mercy. Perhaps some of them will also be ready to kick you out. Then, on one hand, you will be able to become Trinadapi Suniche Na, humbler than a blade of grass, and Manada, respectful to others. On the other hand, you will take great care to make your lives and characters pure and exemplary. Furthermore, what will be beneficial for you is this. As you will correct the mistakes of the common people by citing the messages of Shastra, Sadhu, and Guru, you will not make those same mistakes. Please do not be upset if someone criticizes you personally, but your Guru Varga, Shastra, and Mahajans are completely faultless, supremely liberated, and eternal associates of the Lord. If, due to ignorance, someone criticizes them, then you should correct that person's mistakes by telling them the real truth. This will be very beneficial for both you and the ignorant people. If you become lazy about begging alms from door to door to collect ingredients for Hari Kirtan, and if you indulge in laziness and bad habits, preferring reclusive bhajan so you can escape others' criticism, then your character will not be purified. You will not have the life of devotional practice. I will never give you any opportunity to live in a reclusive place so that you can become undisciplined in your heart, thinking no one will come to see or hear you there. You are my dearmost friends. I will never allow you to give up the path of pleasing the senses of the Lord so you can please the senses of the people of the world as well as your own, because you received some temporary position or you could not tolerate some temporary criticism. This is now obviously speaking to a certain group of people. This is his brahmacharis in the Gaudiya Math temples. He is strong, very strong. And he left behind a legacy to be followed by Srila Prabhupada. It's said openly that Bhaktisiddhanta encouraged not just Prabhupada, he encouraged many, many, many to go to the West and deliver this message. One took it up, and the others didn't assist him for different reasons. They were into what their own mat was, their own territory. But this same legacy is now we have inherited. That is, receive and give. That's our Sankirtan movement. Receive mercy from Lord Chaitanya and his associates, followers, and then give to others. And that will help purify us, both the receiving and the giving. And a great acharya in that regard. Oh yeah, the story, the Jananivas story. So the Chaitanya Mat, this is the last, and I'm going to finish. At the time that temple, the Chaitanya Mat, was built, it was somewhere between jungle and agricultural land. There was a very simple dirt road, and some distance away down the road was the Ghat, and the Ghat is where boats would come, and they would carry paper from Calcutta upstream, up the Ganga, and then in bullock carts they would deliver daily 3 to 4 bullock carts full of paper every day. And when they came to deliver the paper, they would take back books, because between the day of the delivery of the paper and the distribution of the books, or the printing of the books, they had printing presses at the Chaitanya Mat, and it was an essential item or instrument that Bhaktisiddhanta used for his mission, Gaudiya mission. Printing and distribution, publishing and distribution of books. And then, so this is one of the Jananivas stories. And he said another time Bhaktisiddhanta was seen leaving the wall, the perimeter wall, the boundary wall of the Chaitanya Mat, because in the law in Bengal at the time, you can have a certain number of acres of land that's otherwise agricultural for religious purposes, but there's a limit to how many acres of land you can have. So they built a wall around what was allowable by the law. And at night, he left, he went down the road walking towards the Ghat. And the disciples are wondering, where's he going? It's at night. And he came back quite late at night, and they asked, where have you gone? He said, didn't you see Lord Chaitanya and his associates were coming up the street with their Sankirtan, and I was joining the Sankirtan party. An amazing person, an otherworldly person. At that same place, at that Chaitanya Mat, he chanted the same number of rounds that Haridas Thakur chanted every day for like 9 years. He chanted not 16 rounds. He chanted not 64 rounds, but 3 times 64 rounds every day for 9 years. Every day for 9 years. Before he started, the extensive preaching mission. Very powerful. He showed himself to be fit to be on the same platform as Haridas Thakur and the 6 Goswamis, and he came down from that platform to engage in preaching activities because of his great compassion. And he wanted people to not suffer. That's a very clear message. People should not suffer. Their suffering is unnecessary. It's foreign to the soul. So now I think I should end. But what I wanted to do, if you give me like 45 seconds, I'll play you a little video. It's not a video, it's an audio, but it shows a picture of Prabhupada on the occasion of Bhaktisiddhanta's disappearance. Would you like to see it? Yeah? It's short, it's only 4 minutes long. Let me just find it in my computer. How are we going to do this? I think I know where it is. Oh, I know where it is. Yeah. Chicago. Here we go. Louder.
By the grace of Krishna, my business also was not going. Krishna says, Jasahun Gildani Hrisita Dhanusani. If somebody wants to be actually devotee of Krishna, at the same time keeps his material attachment, then Krishna's business is, he takes away everything material so that some person will become, dependent on Krishna. So that actually happened to my life. I was obliged to come to this movement to take up this very seriously. And I was dreaming that Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur is calling me. Please come out with me. So I was sometimes horrified. What is this? I have to give up my family life. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is calling me. I have to take sannyas. Oh, I was horrified. But I saw several times calling me. any fact, it is by His grace I was forced to give up my family life and so-called business life. And He brought me somewhere or other in teaching His gospel. So, this is a memorable day. What He deserved, I am trying a little bit, and you are all helping me. So I have to thank you more. You are actually representative of my Guru Maharaj. Because you are helping me in executing the order of my Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much.
On the occasion that we're honoring today, Bhaktisiddhanta's Disappearance Day. So let's see if there's some discussion. It's 17 minutes before 8. If there's somebody in the room that would like to share something or ask something, please indicate so we can give you the microphone. And if not, we'll see if there's something online.
Guru Maharaj, I have one question.
Okay, fine.
The diorama at the Ranganath temple, is it still present?
I don't know. That was 1974, so I don't know.
Okay. That was my question. There is one question online. It doesn't say the person's name, it says Vedic Church. There may be some advanced Vaishnava devotees who are not in our Saraswati line. They may write commentaries on the Sandarbhas or even have their own institutes. But if they do not accept or make offense to Srila Saraswati Thakur, Bhaktivinoda Thakur or Srila Prabhupada, what caution should we use in hearing from them? What results might come from reading their books?
There's, I would say, three things. One is, the most important one is, Shiv Raj some years ago wrote a booklet, Shiksha Outside of ISKCON. And one of the principal messages is, if you take Shiksha from outside of ISKCON, you're going to be missing that spiritual Shakti, that incredible spiritual Shakti that Srila Prabhupada had for delivering souls to Krishna. That would be a great mistake or misfortune, to not be as close to that spiritual Shakti of deliverance as you can be. However learned, erudite, or whatever else somebody else might be, don't miss that spiritual Shakti opportunity. The second point is something that Prabhupada said repeatedly, and it's true, that when someone else is speaking and there's even one word of difference, it may cause a doubt. Is it this or is it that? And some persons, the is it that or is it that doubt persons, then have an obstacle on their bhakti path. So especially in the earlier stages, one should be very, very careful about not entering into that unnecessary territory of becoming confused by this word is here and that word is there. Something that I've been doing, I'm cautious about. I've been doing it for the last 3 months, reading commentaries of our acharyas. It's not outside of ISKCON, but sometimes one acharya says this, another acharya says that, and someone that's a little bit newer goes, well, is it this or that? And get confused. So that's a potential, especially, at least in our ISKCON line, those acharyas, Rupa Goswami, Jiva Goswami, Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur, Sanatan Goswami, there's alignment completely with their teachings. But somebody's teaching maybe over here or over there and says something that's not only a word is different, but they actually they say, I've heard it, that's wrong. It's not that, it's this. And so that hurts. It hurts either faith in Krishna or it hurts the relationship with that person, and it happens. So that's a third item. Sometimes other acharyas, even within Lord Chaitanya's line, you said this person saying, commenting on the Sandarbhas, some persons within Lord Chaitanya's line are critical of Prabhupada and Prabhupada's followers and ISKCON, and they're explicitly saying it's not that, it's this, with their hands on their hips, defiantly. So, not everybody's like that, but there are some persons like that, and that's a risk. So one should be very careful. We respect from a distance and be very close in close communication, close touch with the sound vibration from our founder Acharya and his followers. That's this safe and wise position. So whoever's asking this question, if they want, I can send you that paper. It's like a just little booklet, Shiksha outside of ISKCON. I'll send it to you. You can forward to this person if they want. They'll have to contact you if they want to receive it from you. Anything else, or we're done? Okay. In the room? Yes? Okay. Can we give the microphone over here? Can you wipe it down with something? Do you have wipes? Okay, he's got some. Go ahead. Yeah. Okay. Starting tomorrow, we'll carry that with us, okay? Go ahead.
I was just wondering about Bhaktisiddhanta initiation, like how did he meet this? I think I've heard about this before.
Which?
How did he meet this Guru Maharaj? Like, work with that Guru Maharaj? And did he meet him in a forest? Or like at,
No. Gorkishore would regularly come and hear from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And it is culture that the father would not give Diksha to his son. So Bhaktivinoda would not give Diksha to Bhaktisiddhanta. He recommended that Bhaktisiddhanta take Diksha, mantra Diksha, from Gorkishore. Gorkishore was not accepting disciples. That was his mood. So he approached him on a few occasions, and he said, he didn't exactly say no, but where the story goes, he said, I have to consult Mahaprabhu. And then later, did you consult Mahaprabhu? He didn't give an answer. So he was, it was a polite no. But the way the story goes, there's different versions of the story, but there was a place where there was a little bridge crossing some ravine or something like that, or a river or something. And Bhaktisiddhanta said, if you can't accept me, what's the use of life without this shelter of Guru? Then better I give up my life. And he was saying in such a mood that Gorkishore understood he meant it, and so he agreed to accept him as a disciple. Now the thing with being in a forest, I don't know about being in a forest. Okay. Anything else in the room, or we're finished? Okay. You have something? Better you remove your mask when you're speaking so I can hear you better. Thanks.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. In one of the slide it was written, right, like the last line, God is the shelter of all and he sends many obstacles and inconvenience to those who wish for the shelter under him. Yeah, I am able to read the English, Maharaj, but I don't know how to understand this. Like, yeah, he is the shelter for all. So when you're, so the doubt comes as like, not the doubt, like how to understand this. Like once we are wanted to come closer to Krishna means the test comes, right? So how to handle
it's not the tests are not there when you don't take shelter. There's other kinds of tests. You know, there's turbulence. This world is a dukkhalayam shashvatam. That's what this world is. It's not that there aren't tests or tribulations until you become a devotee or trying to become a devotee. And then tribulations start. It's not like that. But, you know, sometimes it's not uncommon at all. Persons think, hey, I'm trying to be a devotee and I've got this difficulty. How come there's difficulty for somebody else? Somebody else is a nice person. They're going through so many difficulties. That, you know, God's making a mistake. You know, there's expectation. So that what Bhaktisiddhanta was teaching is, here's what you should expect. Expect that there's going to be a purification path ahead of you. And sometimes it's this, and sometimes it's thorns, and sometimes it's difficulties, and sometimes it's tribulations. Sometimes it's just, you know, great success, and don't become intoxicated because, you know, that's so. Be ready for whatever. Is that okay? Okay. Anything else? We're done. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.